Play and learning is fundamentally a hands-on experience for young children, middle-aged children, and even adults. So today, Cassie and I are going to provide you guys with an example of a way that we can engage with children and use our senses to learn about the world around us, because that's essentially what young children and as we grow, what we're interested in is we want to understand the world around us, inside, outside, the people we're living with, the communities we're engaged with, and we want to understand that. So we have this fun activity related to gardening, and gardening is fun because, as you can see here, it just looks like something you want to touch and get your hands dirty with. So what can we learn from engaging through gardening and horticulture experiences?
Yeah, there's a lot for kids to learn, and it's really exciting for them to like get their hands dirty and actually get to play with the seeds and the soil and the water and everything that goes into growing a garden. Today we're actually just going to be working with some grass seeds, but it's still a really fun process to watch them produce little roots that go into the soil and then eventually produce a little sprout that turns green, and really pretty for them to learn from that. So
right,
fun experiment.
And it looks, relatively low cost, things that as you're working on your houseplants or outdoor landscapes, you can kind of keep away a little seed from your lawn or whatever and kind of mimic this however you'd like. But we just have a plastic cup, right? And we've put little holes in the bottom. Why is this important?
So all plants need really good drainage.
Right.
So it's very easy to overwater any type of plant. Grass seeds, vegetables, even house plants, they all need drainage holes in the bottom of their containers. Just in case you get a little carried away when you're watering. So.
Okay. So we kind of did that ahead of time. And then we are making people today, grass people. And so are kind of like, so we're going to grow their hair. And so once you have your holes cut in your cup, you want to decorate the faces. And it is the adults' responsibility to provide engaging learning and play experiences for youth, and we need to provide a wide variety of those experiences. It's important to think of the child that you're engaging with. You want to provide them with a challenging experience, but not something that is so challenging that they're going to get overly frustrated. So think about the child, if you're with a upper school age youth, they might really be able to, put these holes in themselves, right, and really dig into that concept of watering and drainage, and that, that's an important part of growing. If you're just working with a toddler, maybe you want to have your facial features pre-cut. But as you're working with maybe a preschool or kindergarten or early elementary age, maybe they want to, work on their fine motor skills by cutting out their own facial features. And when we're engaging with youth, we really want to follow their lead. So this doesn't matter if it's silly looking or not. It's all fun and part of the process. So what we did is we kind of made two faces ahead of time, and then so as if I was working with like a toddler, I kind of prepped some. And as we start digging into the next step, I will get these glued on. So.
Okay. So you're going to want some kind of like potting media to put the grass seed in. We're just using a basic seed starting mix, but you can really use anything you have around the house. Don't use garden soil. That's probably going to be a little bit too heavy for these seeds. So any kind of potting soil in a bag that you can get from any garden store or large retail stores. So we just went ahead and put it in a bowl and mixed it with some water to get it moist. It's easier to go ahead and start with moist soil instead of pouring in a bunch of water after the seeds have already been planted. So this soil's in the cup and it's already really moist and ready to go.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and we went ahead and put the face on before we decided to plant the grass.
Okay, so yeah, like I mentioned, it kind of depends on the age of the child that you're working with. Some kids are really at the point of, learning to operate a scissors or a glue stick or even a marker is part of that challenging and creative process for them. And other children, it might just be, them wanting to spoon the soil into the cup and whatnot. So you just really need to think about the developmentally appropriate age for your child, but this is something that you can definitely follow their lead. And when you're engaging with a child and you're talking about the growing process, with plants and, water and drainage and all of those interesting things, try to ask open-ended questions because we really want to challenge youth to think outside the box. And sometimes they'll come up with answers that we as adults are like, no, that's not the way it works. It's important to engage into their thought process and help them explore. And maybe you can find a book that, kind of helps reiterate maybe more of the reality. We don't want to take their imagination and trump it out just by saying, nope, you're wrong. This is the way we do it. And I know that with growing this and getting our hair to sprout, there's certain steps that we want to follow, but we definitely want to follow their lead throughout the learning process. Okay, so we have the soil in our cups.
Yeah, so the next step will just be planting the grass.
Okay.
And this is really hard to mess up. So it can
Good,
be
it's
done
perfect for a child and youth.
Yeah, any age range really. Grass seed is really easy to grow. We're just using from a big bag of lawn seed. And yeah, it'll sprout pretty much any time of year in any conditions. So.
Okay, so this was kind of just left over from a landscaping project. So is this all right?
Yep, we're just going to sprinkle it over the head of our little person.
Okay.
It's going to grow into the hair.
Okay, so you can do the other little guy. We just kind of use some leftover craft supplies that we had here to make our faces. There's other adaptations that you can make. You can put a photo of the actual child's face on it and glue that, and so then the child will actually grow hair, and there's lots of different fun interesting ways. And again, depending on the developmental age of your child, you might be able to explore that. So we have the seeds on the head. Now what?
We might put a little bit extra soil right on top. Don't cover them too much, but just spoon another little layer right on top.
Okay. And I'm actually going to use my fingers because as if I was a child, you might help, want to dig in and explore with them the different features. Again, we want to try to engage as many senses as possible. You can even talk about what does it sound like, is it loud, is it not loud? And I know that's kind of seems silly to us as adults, but to young children, they really need to learn the realities of the world around us. And so you can think of your five senses: touch, taste, smell, seeing and hearing. And I know we're probably not going to eat any parts of our activity today, but we can engage all other four senses, that. So
another thing they could look for is the color of the soil.
Yes.
When it's wet, it's going to be darker. So right now it's pretty dark because the soil is really moist. But when it starts to dry out, and you're going to know it's going to need water when it is a little bit lighter in color.
Okay, yeah. So that's kind of as it continues to grow and they're sprouting the hair and whatnot, you can learn to monitor the water needs. Okay, so how will we water our plants?
I suggest using a misting bottle like this, especially if you have children helping you.
Yes.
It's really easy to overwater sometimes, so this will definitely help with that process. So we're just going to give it a little mist like that right now.
Okay. All right, so then, you can definitely see the color change right away. And it's okay as an adult, especially as you're moving into different conversations, to say, hey, provide some probing questions, but try to keep them open-ended, like I mentioned earlier. And if you do need to ask a question with a yes or no answer, that's really to gauge where a child's at. And if they can't answer yes or no, then you need to take some steps backwards to maybe make it more of a basic lesson. And if they can answer those yes or no's, engaging questions, then you can know that you can dig deeper, like I said, into the more advanced topics. And this is just really a basic activity, maybe as you're digging into spring fever and thinking about the summer. And then soon you can get out into the backyard and really work on some gardening, because you're exactly right. Learning from how your food grows and how your landscaping grows is an essential component to understanding the world around you. So, when you are engaging with youth, whether it's inside or outside, it's important to model patience. So I know, you may say, well, this is going to take 30 minutes. Well, if your child wants to do this learning process longer than that, think of some points where you might be able to take breaks. So maybe you just want to decorate the cups if you need to take a break for attention spans or for another task, but you really want to model patience and really promote social and emotional development throughout this as well. And any activity that you do side by side with a child is just building that relationship with each other. So Kids want caring adults to help them understand the world around them.